What do we need to know about the energies of the week of August 11th? Welcome to Trevor's Tarot, Astrology, and Spirituality. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, sharing the videos, promoting the videos on your social media platforms. It's all greatly, greatly appreciated. Okay, so when I was meditating to get ready for this reading, a couple uh, things really stood out to me is this overwhelming sense of familiarity. I think this week will be um, a week in which the emotions seem very familiar. Now, whether that emotion is anxiety, stress, loneliness, or something more joyous or elation, I think it somewhat depends on, individual circumstances. But I think for the majority of us, this is going to kind of coincide with the energies that we felt before Mercury went retrograde back in July. And Mercury will be going direct on August 11th. Most of you probably won't see this video before it went direct, but I'll probably have it posted just a few hours before it goes direct. And then it'll be moving over the parts where it had retrograded back until July or until August 25th. And I think for me, this period of after Mercury goes direct and when it's in its shadow, as they say, I get a lot of deja vus. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a universal thing. I do feel like the collective is still quite anxious. I think the anxiety lessened over the weekend. Um, Particular, I think Sunday was probably a more relaxing day for a lot of us. Um, but the stress is going to come back, and we can't quite put our fingers on what we're stressed about. We might think it's geopolitical, but then we'll, ask ourselves, you know, or are we just going to be stressed until this time era is over? And the answer might be yes for a lot of us. I think for me the answer is um, not stress so much as a feeling of um, anxiousness and anticipation. And we talked about this anticipatory feeling a few weeks ago. I think that returns as well, and it's a feeling of like, you know wanting to do something but not knowing what it is you can do. It's a feeling of perhaps loneliness, but at the same time, not wanting to really go out and do anything with people. Maybe not even wanting to talk on the phone. It's, a feeling of stress and knowing that, turning off the news and meditation would help, but the unwillingness to do that. So it's somewhat of a week of self-sabotage in that sense, to where we know part of the solutions, not all the solutions, but we know things that make us feel better, but we're going to be unwilling to do them. It's just this weird human condition where, it's like, uh, I know I cannot eat ice cream before bed because I will have acid reflux, but then, I go and eat ice cream before bed. It's kind of that idea of like, we know this isn't good for us, or we know how to fix what is making us annoyed or anxious or feeling like there's something we need to do. We know what it is, but we're not going to do it anyhow. It's just the energy of the week. Now if we can overcome that and actually do some of these things, like, meditate, maybe do some yoga, maybe get out of the house, uh, a lot of these feelings would subside, or it feels like they would if we do it. But most of us aren't going to do it. It's just it's a that's what the energies felt like when I was meditating. It kind of just feels like the solution's at the tip of your tongue, but we can't get it out of our mouths. It's kind of like that. A solution's too strong of a word. An idea of what to do to make ourselves feel more content, I should say. I don't think any of us have solutions for fixing how we feel in general, but we know that there are some things that we're doing that are making the problem worse, such as anxiety, stress, loneliness. Now, sometimes there isn't anything we can do about those emotions, but this week it's going to feel like there is. So let's take some cards from the Angels and Ancestors Oracle deck, and then we'll move to the Tarot, and then we'll finish with the Spirit Animal Oracles like we've been doing. Okay, so what do we need to know for this week of August 11th? Okay, let's see the Stargazer card in the scramble. This is about like setting your goals bigger than what you even think you can achieve. But again, it feels like we won't do that. It's just, it's going to be an odd week. It feels like something big is going to happen too. I'm going to talk about that on the other channel, but um, this, not quite sure. Just a couple cards here. Okay, this one feels right. Okay, so we get uh, Peacekeeper. A harmonious resolution is possible. So there is a solution or there is a resolution that will make us feel better this week. I don't know that we do it. Um, but it's a good to know that that energy is there, and I hope most of us do. I hope I'm completely wrong, and we all have a great week. You'll have to let me know in the comments. The High Priest intend and create. Uh, I do think there is the potential for being uh, creative or recreative. Not that that's a word, but recreate is. Because we're gonna have the same some we're gonna have ideas flowing through our heads that are ideas that we've had before, and we probably didn't act on them then, and so we'll think about acting on them now, and we might actually do it, but probably not until after, towards the end of the month, and maybe not even until September. So underneath we have the shapeshifter, uh, transform and unveil your gifts. Uh, Again, I think if we can approach the week with the intention of making ourselves feel better by doing what we know will make ourselves feel better, that would be useful. Um, but don't beat yourself up if you don't succeed, uh, because I just feel like that's kind of part of this is that we're just not supposed to. In some ways, I don't think it's going to be the worst week ever. I think it's going to be, pretty in line with a lot of the other weeks that we've had this summer. I do think that there's a feeling though that things are getting better, and I think this is part of it. Um, but there's also a realization that things are kind of going to get worse before they get better. But the getting better part does feel like it's on the time horizon. We can't quite see it yet, but we're getting closer. Let's pull some cards from the tarot. Okay, so what are we supposed to know this week, the week of August 11th? What are we supposed to know? There's a lot of financial worry, um, particularly in the United States, but around the world as well. I certainly don't want to speak as if, the United States is the center of attention. It just happens to be where I live, so that's kind of the energies I pick up on a lot. I think grocery prices in particular in the US have become alarmingly concerning in a short period of time. Like it feels like things have gone really wrong. Um, so yeah, uh, we went to out to eat, and at a Mexican restaurant, and noticed that the little salad that they put on the plate, with the lettuce and the guacamole and the tomatoes and sometimes sour cream, uh, no tomatoes. And I mentioned this on the pizza the last week. Again, no tomatoes. Asked just curiously why no tomatoes, and it's because they're expensive. So they brought tomatoes if you asked for them, but if you didn't ask for them, they were going to put them on the plate. Um, so I'm curious if that's going on where you guys are at. What are we supposed to know here? There's definitely there's a worry in the air, but it's not a bigger worry in the air than what has always been, for the last while. Yeah, we get the Ace of Wands. This taking control, this wanting things to be different, wanting new leadership in the world. I think that's a common theme for the world, not necessarily for each individual country wanting individual leadership within their country, but definitely wanting changes in leadership in Israel and in Russia and in the United States. Um, I think that is kind of a universal feel. I think that's why the Ace of Wands is here, but I think it's also here to remind us that, we do have choices, but we have to act on them. We can't just think about them. It doesn't help to think about doing yoga. It doesn't help to think about meditating. Um, you have to do them. And I am very guilty of this myself, so this isn't a judgment thing. Um, I'll often say to myself, I think I would feel better if I did an afternoon meditation, or some yoga in the afternoon rather than I usually always do a morning meditation, especially on the days that I record videos. Um, I always do them on the days I record videos, I should say. Or if I'm going to do a private reading, I always do them then. Um, but if it's a day that I'm just relaxing and taking off, and my week's been a little bit hectic, but or weekend was a little bit hectic, but still, it's like, I know this would make me feel better, but it's elusive. It's just the way it kind of is. We get the Hierophant, the church, the court, the Pope, our higher selves. I think listening to our higher selves would be great this week. Acting on what our higher selves are telling us would be better. Um, it'll be curious at the end of the week how this plays out on whether we are stubborn or whether we actually do the things that we know are going to make us feel better. And these don't have to be meditation yoga. This could be, making a phone call. It could be getting, the procrastination done, like actually making the appointment with the eye doctor or the dentist, going to pick up the prescription that's been ready for a few days, all of these things. I mean, this is kind of, we talked a little bit about this, I think maybe a month ago. Um, I think this is that uh, creating that things feeling familiar, that deja vu type of energy. And we get the Eight of Cups, walking away from things that don't serve us. Um, in particular, I think, in this is the Unveiled Tarot. Um, this image, makes it seem like there's an escape from the rooftop party, even though there's not. So it's an illusion, but this idea that we can block all of that out and walk away from it is how it's going to feel, or the feeling of wanting to do that if we feel like we can't. Um, and we get the Ace of Swords, flying high in the clouds, a lot of daydreaming type energy to avoid reality, to avoid actually doing the things that we probably should do. But, I mean, no judgment on my part. It's just human nature to procrastinate and to um, not listen to suggestions. It's just the way things are. Um, but also this living our individual truth as well. And then we get the King of Cups, trying to create this safe waters amongst the stormy sea, right? The sea's stormy, and here's the sailboat in safe waters, the King of Cups. This idea of creating a safe harbor, this, similar to this idea of escaping a chaotic scene. Um, these are the things that I think will make the week go easier. And again, it's this idea of daydreaming and flying high in the clouds. And then we get the Five of Pentacles. This is the monetary worry that's just, and particularly it's in the United States. I think it's around the world as well. Um, there's just a lot of concern about, I don't know if it's even money, to be honest with you. I think for a lot of people it's money, but even for people that are probably more financially well off, it's security. It's I wouldn't be surprised if you have the feeling to stock up on canned goods this week, and the idea that the canned good prices are going to go up even more in the US, or whatever they are around the world. Um, but it's not even about saving money, it's about having enough food on hand that if something were to go wrong, we'd have enough food. Now, I'm not talking about doomsday prepping here. I'm talking about this is just going to be a feeling of like, you know, well, maybe I should have more food on hand. You know, Probably wouldn't hurt to pick up a bag of rice and some dried beans. I don't know. Just I have a feeling this is going to pop into a lot of people's minds this week. If it hasn't already, like that probably started a few days ago, it feels like, but yeah. Uh, the Two of Cups. You know, if you're lucky enough to have a significant other, whether it be a romantic partnership, a spouse, um, a fur baby, a pet, um, a horse, whatever it is, there's going to be a desire to be around them, because they kind of ease the anxiety. So I think there'll be a desire to be at home in general, but also to be with people that bring us comfort. And then we had the Ten of Wands. There's just a lot of burdens going on. I mean, I could sit here and tell you the week's going to be great and all that jazz. But I don't think it's going to be terrible. But I think it is going to feel like we're just marching the same path over and over again. And the burdens that we were carrying a month ago, we're carrying again. And a lot of this is Mercury. Not all of it, but a lot of it is that. Now, personally, for me, Mercury retrogrades affect me um, in the beginning. Like the first week that Mercury goes retrograde, that's a week I'm very forgetful. Um, but then things kind of calm down for me. Most of the time, it's kind of okay. And now, kind of just depends on how sensitive you are to Mercury and, your natal chart and all that jazz. But um, this I think is a collective reliving of this feeling of being burdened, and maybe not even knowing what we're burdened by. It's it's kind of the way it is. And then we get the Queen of Cups. This so it really reminds me of this idea of okay, so she's sitting on the dock, maybe having a drink, Um, maybe she would feel better if she went swimming, but she's not going to. It's that energy very much is alive this week. So, wanting new leadership, also wanting to take control of our lives, but not necessarily listening to that voice that is telling us what to do. This creating a safe harbor in the stormy climate, even if it's only in our heads. And this unwillingness to do the things that we know would make us feel better, but we're still not going to do it. That's kind of the story of the week. We will feel more comfortable around loved ones, be them pets, spouses, partners, children, parents, grandparents, doesn't matter. Uh, and again, this is to create this like calmness amongst the storm because we just don't have the ability to escape right now with the Eight of Cups. So, we get the church, the Pope, the courts, and the environment around, or our higher selves, which I think this is what it is in this case. And this idea of listening to our higher selves, which I think we'll be very good at this week, but doing what our higher selves is telling us to do, I don't think we're going to be very good at. We have the truth, but we're too busy daydreaming, is kind of the idea. There's going to be concerned about I'm going to say security. I think that's a better way to say it. In particular, food security, which, can be monetary, but um, it's almost like there's like a feeling in the air of like not knowing whether money is going to be able to buy food in the same way that it can today. So therefore, this idea of stacking up on extra food, I just think it's there for a lot of people. And then, we're reliving the burdens that we have been going through all summer. Now, I don't think this week is going to be super bad. I do feel like something big is going to happen. I don't know what that is, but I don't think it's an individual thing. And I don't necessarily know that it's going to be bad. We get the Empress underneath this wanting to nurture ourselves, and we're wanting to start over with the Fool card. Um, and then we get the Lovers card, which used to be called the Choices card um, before it became the Lovers card. So again, we have choices whether we act on them. That's a different story altogether. So all in all, I think it's going to be a challenging week, but not as challenging as some of the ones that we've had. So let's pull some of these animal oracle cards. Let's just see what else we can get. I think it's just to do 5 of them today. It feels like that's right. Uh, yeah, surrender now. Not only listen to the inside voice, but act on it. Now, of course, if it's beneficial, if you're being self-sabotatory, then don't. But um, yeah, I mean, doing things that make us feel better, do them. Don't just think about them. Uh, surrender to our higher selves, our higher power, our higher, the universe, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, source. Uh, clear out the clutter, the frog spirit. This is a good one. Now, I think for some people, this is a very literal thing of needing to clear out the clutter, particularly some home offices. It's for somebody there. Um, but more generally, I think it refers to our heads, our brains racing too fast. Now, one of the ways that we can get the brains to stop racing is to do mundane chores. And, this sounds crazy, but, if you come to my house and the house is spotless, you know that I've been having a hard time sleeping and my brain's been racing because that's what I do is I clean. It's just the way things are. Uh, the fox spirit, think on your feet. Yeah, I think there might be the need for like quick reactions at some point this week, quick decision making for some people. I don't think this applies to everybody, but I think uh, yeah, and particular um, this this idea of somebody's like pacing back and forth in the scrying bowl. So it's like I don't know if pacing makes us feel better, maybe. It's like that thinking, literally thinking on your feet, like actually be walking and thinking. I also feel like that relieves some pain in somebody's right hip. Walking makes it feel better. The buffalo spirit, the abundant universe will provide. So, you know, this fear of food insecurity is really just a fear. I don't think it's going to come to fruition. But if it makes you feel better to act on it in a healthy way, don't go buy all the canned tuna fish in the grocery store, but picking up a couple extra cans if that makes you feel better, by all means. Um, and then the groundhog spirit, it's time to let go. Yeah, I think it's time that we stop giving power to people that aren't actually in our lives on a day-to-day basis, regardless of what powers they have in their role in the world. But um, yeah, I think it's time to prepare for that letting go because I think it's actually physically going to happen um, in a month or two. At least I hope so. So, um, yeah. Well, I hope that was helpful. Leave me a comment if it resonated with you, and I'll be back with another video soon.